going on? I thought we were done and the stream died, but it didn't. It's okay. We're live. Wonderful. What's going on, everybody? Gotta love technology. We are here today. I'm so excited about today's guests. We're going to be talking about being an author and a wonderful new book that our wonderful guest has written. And we're going to be talking about discovering power. We're going to be meeting today's best-selling author, Karen Ann Bulluck. I'm so excited. Can't wait to share her story with everyone. She's a risk-taking coach, which I love because I'm a risk taker. She loves guiding women leaders and cultivating their courage and inner sage, and really making an extraordinary impact at work and beyond. And I'm sure that her book probably has a little something to do with that. So she's got this new novel coming out, or that just came out, Discovering Power, and it's a series. So I'm so excited to hear more about the series, this book, the other books she has out, and the one that's going to be coming up. We're going to be talking about all kinds of things, and it's going to be pretty exciting. So I'm glad anybody and everyone that's joining us today will be joining us and watching the replay, because we appreciate that. A little bit of what I wanted to say is I have an upcoming masterclass next week on Thursday. So if you're interested in live streaming, learning about live streaming, join me, and I will be putting in the information below. But that's not why we're here. I just wanted to say it is available, and I will be putting a little QR code in the corner. At least I could do that. Masterclass QR code. Please feel free to sign up and join me next Thursday at noon Eastern time. And then we will be joining in the Zoom room afterwards for question and answers, a little bit of VIP, just to kind of answer all your questions one-on-one, or be more interactive. So I'm really looking forward to that. But back to our special episode today, which I'm so excited to have the wonderful Karen Ann Bulluck. Let's welcome her. There she is.
Hey, DeeJae, how are you today?
Hi. Good. We've got so many amazing people already in the chat, and I'm sure they're here to see you. So it's exciting. Thank you again for being here and being my guest. And I just, when you shared that you were releasing your book, I reached out to you and I said, I would love to have you and share with you, just be able to share your book and highlight you in your work. So again, thank you. And I love what you do with risk taking. That's so important for women specifically. And you work with leaders, corporate. So I can't wait to hear all about that and the work you do. I see some of our fellow friends in the chat.
Absolutely.
Hi, Krista. Thank you for hanging out and supporting our conversation today. Jessica, thank you for hanging out. And Mackenzie, the wonderful best mod ever. And Stacy. Hi, Stacy.
Hey,
nice
everybody.
To meet you.
It's so great to have you all here.
Yes, please leave your questions in the chat as we get going on this conversation. I will be pulling them up for you. Feel free to ask Karen anything about her book, her journey, her writing. And Karen, did you know that tomorrow is something special? Let me see. I have something here. I know. You're like, wait, what? I'm going to... Yeah, no, tomorrow is, oh gosh, I had this ready to go. Here it is. Oh, Writers' Rights Day. Did you know that tomorrow's Writers' Rights Day?
I did not know that tomorrow was Writers' Rights Day. What is Writers' Rights Day?
Writers' Rights Day. It's when I was doing some research, it said in 1992, it was the first observance about raising awareness for many of the issues that writers face, the difficulty in getting health care, establishing a minimum standard for contracts, and other things. So I'm not a writer, but I thought, ooh, that's really interesting. And I wanted to see if you knew that. And for all the writers out there, we understand the pain and how hard it can be being a writer. I mean, just so that's why it's so important to support you. Buy the book.
Absolutely. No, being a writer, and especially in today's world, being a writer has changed. You know, you said that your clip says it started in 1992. Well, the world of publishing and books was completely different in 1992 than it is today. So it was challenging then. I think it's much more challenging now. It's easier to get a book out into the world, but to get paid for it, and all the other things surrounding that has gotten a lot more difficult. So some things are easier and some things are harder, and it's really interesting. But we do not need to get into a discussion about the publishing world today.
Oh no, but I just want to acknowledge that tomorrow's Writers' Rights Day. So, and you're a writer. So, okay, so let's get to it. Let's talk about this book that you have out. I'm so excited. I did purchase the Kindle copy, so I'm going to start reading it. Full disclosure, I haven't started reading it yet, but I did as much research as I could, and I've got some questions prepared for you. But you go ahead and share a little bit about what the book is, and oh no,
I can't hear you all of a sudden.
You can't hear me. Oh, uh-oh. Gotta love technology. I think that's just part of it. Chat, if you can hear us, let us know. I'm curious. Whoever's here hanging out, please let us know if you can hear me, if you can hear Karen, because we want to make sure that everything is a-okay.
Okay, sorry, I lost audio for a minute.
Oh, that's okay. I was asking the chat to confirm. No worries. Like I said, you never know what happens with live streams. That's just one of the beautiful things about it, the magic that you just got to work through. Thank you. We can hear you both.
Wonderful. Absolutely.
Chat.
I just couldn't hear you, but we're all good. And I will tell you a little bit about the book. So the book is called Discovering Power, and it's about the journey of a female executive in the corporate world, who happens to be an IT executive, which was a lot of my career, not all of it. So there's I have a little of my experience, not necessarily my experiences, get in the book. And it's funny because when I left my corporate job, I wanted to talk about leadership, and I started writing a book, and I honestly hated it. I was bored with it, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is really boring. No one in the world is going to want to read this. And one day I was taking a walk, and I love this story. One day I was taking a walk, and all of a sudden I started hearing the story of Cheryl, who is the heroine of the book, in my head. And I came home and started writing it. And I wrote down what I heard, or sort of it. And it morphed into that actual piece of it is the prologue of the book now. And, the rest of the book then kind of wrote itself in a lot of ways. But what I love about it is it's fiction, so it's fun and it's easy to read. It's not dry. It's fun. And I also like it because it allowed me to show different perspectives on issues that we face in the work world, right? And it applies a lot to corporate life, but even people that aren't in corporate really can relate to it, whether you've been in or people are, or even experiences just that you have in life. I think you can relate to it because it's about a woman who has a crisis of conscience. She struggles to try to figure out, okay, all these bad things are happening at my work, and how do I do this? Or do I just walk out, right? So I'll give a little bit of a hint. Early on in the book, one of her employees does walk out, and she has to figure out how to handle that. And she's like, okay, do I go with her? What do I do? And I think it's a decision point for her. It's really an inflection point for her.
Sounds very relatable. I think many of us have been in that situation. I know I've been in this situation. So one of the things that I read when I was looking over the piece that on Amazon, and I will share that. Let me see. I got it here. But one of the pieces that it talks about is really integrity. It seems like that's one of the key values that she has to assess, she has to look into to make these decisions, is really based from her integrity.
Absolutely. And integrity is really a core value for me. And I mean integrity in a couple of different ways. So for me, integrity means, the usual of doing the right thing and telling the truth and being honest, all of that kind of stuff is very important. And that is part of what Cheryl struggles with. But it's also really being in alignment with your true self, with your deepest values, with, how you really want to be in the world. And so often situations and the corporate world can pull us apart from that, because there's the corporate culture and the standards, and then there's your own standards. And sometimes people really find that hard to mesh them together and have them in a place where you can be in integrity with yourself, right? Where you can be aligned. And I think that's what Cheryl really struggles with as much as anything else, because all of a sudden her personal values and the values that have been adopted by new board of directors in the company are no longer aligned. And how does she do that? Can she do that and still stay in the corporation?
Yeah, when leadership changes and you're working and you just don't know what to expect, but then you realize what's coming or what they stand for and those changes that are going to be soon bestowed upon you. It's like, uh-oh, do I run for the hills? What do I make of it? And like you said in the book, when she has her friend that leaves, I assume it's a friend. I don't know. If it's a friend, it's that much more. But if
it's a subordinate, but it's okay.
Okay. So, but in any case, you kind of see like the reality, like, okay, it's not just me having these thoughts. It's not just me having these feelings, and other people are taking action on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the things I love about writing fiction is you can explore not only the main character's feelings, but the feelings of those people around her, including her boss and her subordinates and her peers and her husband and her friend. And as she shares the story, or other people are experiencing it, they all have different perspectives and different reactions to it. And that's what I love about fiction, is being able to explore all those different feelings and thoughts and perspective, as because we all look at things differently.
Yeah. And it's important. You want a book to have lots of characters, dimension to it. I mean, if you don't relate to one character, at least you have another one that there's some similarities that you can see in yourself. So I like a good, juicy book with lots of character development, right? Like, that's so important. So
Absolutely. and there's lots of character development in this book. So I don't want to give away. I don't want to give away what happens. But to go back to what you said about risk taking,
yeah.
I mean, that's some of the big decisions that Cheryl has to make. Is, do I take a risk, and when do I take the risk, and what does that look like? Because risk taking is. It's not necessarily jumping off the cliff all at once. A lot of times you can try to figure out how to do it most effectively. And that's part of her struggle too, is, do I take the risks? And then if I'm going to take it, how do I do it that it doesn't blow in a way that's less likely to blow everything up?
That's why you get a coach.
That's why you get a coach.
That's why you get a coach to help you ease through those like feelings and thoughts, and like, which way do I go and how far do I go? So
absolutely. No, I have a weekly newsletter that comes out on Thursdays. It'll come out today, and that's part of the thing I talk about is how having a coach has helped me deal with those feelings and the things that sabotage you, that you don't even realize are sabotaging you when you go to take big risks. And sometimes, so often, our subconscious just wants to jump in and protect us from taking those big risks. And that's where learning to dive into your mindset and what your subconscious beliefs are, and the things that are driving you that you don't even realize are driving you below the surface. And to your point, having a coach for that has helped me, and certainly it's helped some of my clients too.
Oh gosh, yes. I don't think that I could get as far in my risk taking, in positive risk taking. We're talking positive risk taking here.
Absolutely. Risky, not reckless. The way I always talk about it is risky, not reckless. We want to take risks, but we don't want to be reckless or crazy.
Let's hashtag that, chat. Hashtag that. Risky, not reckless. I love it. I agree 100%. Okay. I've got another question for you. And so, how I think you already answered this, and I'm gonna just pull it up. But how much is that rooted in your own life? Like the coaching, the risk taking, and then how you put it into a book.
Well, the risk taking is totally rooted in my life. So, um, and I really only realized that kind of in hindsight when thinking about things. But the biggest risks I've taken. Okay, so my big risk taking story is that I used to be an aerobatic pilot. I used to turn airplanes upside down, and
I
it
love
was
this.
great fun. And that was completely, yeah, that was completely maybe a little on the edge of reckless. Although I didn't do it without training and planning and instruction and all of, and safety equipment and all of that fun stuff. So it wasn't like it was totally reckless, although a lot of people would say it was kind of on the edge there.
Wow.
But so I've taken risks in that area, and I've taken risks in my career. I worked for the same company for a long time, but within that, I can't even tell you how many different jobs I had and how many different hats I had. And I was always the one that said, okay, something needs to be changed and fixed. Let's do it. Let's dive in and do it. Even if I had no idea what the department was about. So the risk taking is absolutely very rooted in my life. I mean, it's really how I've lived my life in a lot of ways.
Ooh.
And I think it's how you have an extraordinary life. I mean, I think I've had an extraordinary life. I think and I'm developing even more of one now. I mean, extraordinary doesn't have to be doing something that's famous worldwide, but extraordinary is having an impact on people and having joy with that impact. And I think those two things together make extraordinary.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to do a little reflecting here and see where I've had some extraordinary moments and how I can continue to make sure I have those moments or those experiences. So, ooh, okay, I like it. Let me see. I saw someone in the chat. Let's see. Oh, love it. Look at that. Thank you for being here. I see Misty's here. Hi, Aaron. Thank you for hanging out. That's coming from one of our paired channels. I think it's yours on your LinkedIn. So that's one of your audience viewers, connections, if you will.
Yep, Aaron and Misty.
Yeah. Thank
Are
you, Misty. Facebook. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate the support. Yes, Jessica. Good job following instructions. Look at that. Risky, not reckless.
I love that, Jessica. Thank you. I'm going to have to start using that, aren't I?
Yeah. That's all you. It's wonderful. It's good for people to hear that and to know that, because risk taking has, I don't want to say a negative connotation to it, but sometimes it really does. And people were always taught to be more conservative, to be more, and as we get older, oh goodness, let me tell you, as I've gotten older, I've gotten more safe. And I used to be a much bigger risk taker when I was young, if you can't tell on my personality. But I've never been the reckless type. Never been so for me, okay, so one of the big risks was I joined the military. I was young. I worked on airplanes, so I was going to say I know about airplanes, and for me that was huge. It's like I'm going to take this risk in my life and join the military and see where it takes me and what that experience is all about. So, I mean, I wouldn't say it was reckless, but it was risky for me. So, all good stuff though. I love it. So, yes, don't think let's see what says. I don't think it's taken. Good for branding. Oh, awesome. I love it.
Jessica. I love that.
Yes. Okay. So I did have another question. All right. And so it's more about your writing style. I don't know if I'm just all over the place, but whose writing voice do you model? Like, where do you not only, and I'm going to ask you who inspires you when you're writing or where you find your inspiration, because you've already said that it just came to you, right? The story, the character came to you. So obviously that it was pulled from somewhere. It came from somewhere. But then as well as when you're writing, I guess, is how you translate it from your head, and then authors that have made an impact on you that kind of have helped develop your writing style.
That's a really interesting question. I read all the time. I am a big I love to read, and I love to read fiction, although I read nonfiction too. So I don't know that I have authors that I love their voices and I love the way they write, but I can't write like that.
Right,
Like
right, right.
it's not me. So I'm not sure that from a style perspective or a voice perspective, I really modeled anyone. I hear the characters. It sounds a little hooky pooky, but I hear the characters talking to me in my head, and so really, the voice is my characters. As I write, it's almost like it's almost in some ways like they're dictating it to me.
Wow, that's so cool.
Which, especially the dialogue, like I totally hear the dialogue in my head, and just am writing.
Okay, I want to know whoever's in the chat, if you're a writer, of course, it pertains more to you. But let me know if that sounds relatable, if that's familiar. I know I have one writer in the chat, so Mackenzie, if you're still here, like, let me know, because Mackenzie was wonderful and helped me get some of these questions. Credit where credit is due. But I mean, I wouldn't say I understand because I'm not a writer, but I could see how sometimes you're just so moved.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. And Juana's asking the question who my favorite fiction author is, and that is probably Barbara Delinsky. I don't think she's writing anymore. And she started out as a romance novelist, which I didn't necessarily read her early on, but she really writes deep stories about people's transformation and people's growth, particularly women's growth. And I love that. I mean, yes, there's romance in them usually, but they're really about growth and exploring difficult topics. So I guess in some ways, maybe I model her voice a little bit. Certainly there's not really romance in Discovering Power, although there might be in some of the subsequent versions of the series, like Pursuing Truth, which is book 2, which is coming out in September. So there might be a little romance in that one, but
I had one of those as a question.
This one isn't romance, although there's certainly a lot about her relationship with her husband. Because how when you're going through a crisis like that at work, of course it spills over into your personal relationships. So there's some of that, but I love how Barbara Delinsky really takes. So she, in some of her later books, she really took some challenging topics and looked at them from an interesting perspective in a fictional way, which is really what I love.
Oh, that's wonderful. I mean, gosh, such a talent to be able to write and to pull these stories together and create, especially a series. I mean, I'm blown away. I'm creative, but I'm just not creative in that way. So I think it's so cool. For me, it's very fascinating, very fascinating. But yeah, I had that question that was going to be coming up, and I was going to ask him more towards the end of this because we can't talk about that just yet. We have to save that more towards the end. But like I said, we've mentioned it's a series, so I know there's something out. I don't know if it's I don't know how much you can talk about it and what you can say, but we'll get to that later. Okay, one other question I had. This was great. Thank you again, Mackenzie, for all the help. We were looking at Amazon. It says your family life category genre. So what is that? Do you know? Because we talked about, you said the character, she discusses it with her husband. Friends are always like, so I just didn't know if there was something particular about that genre, or I've never.
No, it's kind of a weird. This novel is sort of weird in that it doesn't really fit in a lot of the traditional fiction categories.
Okay.
Because it's a book about business, but there is also stuff about family life. Obviously, her relationship with her husband is a major component of the book as she goes through this transformation. But it doesn't fit easily into fiction categories. There aren't a lot of different fiction categories. And so, I guess that's how it ended up in family life category, to be
Wow.
perfectly honest. I'm
I
not
mean, and
even sure.
yeah, I
Sometimes
assumed
Amazon auto assigned things based on the book descriptions and stuff like that. So,
well,
but to find a genre for this is a little challenging because it's not a typical, it's not a typical fiction book, but yet it's.
but it relates to family. It
But
relates
it
to your
relates to family. Yeah.
it
I mean,
relates to your life itself, like life
yeah.
decisions, life pursuits, what you're going to do, values that we carry in our own personal lives, decision making. So it goes along with, I mean, it seems to fit the category. I just wasn't very familiar with the category. So I just thought, but just pick the brain, right? We're picking the brain here. Oh, David, hi. Thank you for joining the conversation. I hope your audio event went well. Sorry I missed it, but thank you for hanging out and supporting us. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm super excited. I think that it's important to like write from within, and it seems like you're doing that. Like you're really what comes naturally to you. You're not forcing anything, you're not really imitating or copying anybody. So it just seems so authentic to you. And so I think, does that make it easier?
I think it does. I mean, we all have our own unique voices. We all have our own unique way of expressing ourselves. And if we try to use somebody else's style and use somebody else's format or wording, there are obviously larger structures. Obviously there's a certain format for a novel, or there's certain formats for marketing or for whatever. But when we try to copy other people's style, it almost always comes across as inauthentic, because we each have our own unique style and our own unique way of expressing ourselves. And I think the world is a better place when we're doing that. I mean, I think that's one of the things that I find really interesting about the whole, AI explosion right now is are we going to lose people's unique individual voices? And that would be such a shame, because we all have such wisdom and such poetry. I'm going to use the word poetry in the way we express ourselves. It's unique to each of us, and that's what we need to be bringing out in the world. And sometimes that in itself is risky.
Yes, absolutely. I think when you are writing and when you are being genuine with what you want to put out, what you want to create, it still puts you in a very vulnerable spot, because you're putting yourself up for criticism, which nobody likes criticism. Nobody wants to be judged. But I mean, as an artist, any form artist or any form of creator, that just goes along with the territory. And that just very much aligns with risk taking and taking that risk and not worrying about all that and the negativity and the beliefs of what if they don't like it, or what if this, or what if that. So I think it just all goes hand in hand.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's what's really interesting about that is that's still a subtext, right? I mean, those thoughts still run through your head, and managing them and managing your mindset around them is part of the challenge of putting a book like this out, or putting any kind of artwork or creative work, or even non-creative work out in the world, because you're right, you're setting yourself up potentially for criticism. Criticism doesn't bother me as much as the judgment piece of it. I mean, I don't mind a little constructive criticism, but when you get into the judgment, nobody wants, to your point, nobody wants to be judged, but people do. And, I just have to recognize that that's on them. It's not me, but that's easier said than done.
Well, okay, so you're a coach. So this just came up, a question in my mind. And when you're helping people with the risk taking, right, and making those big steps, making that bold move in their life, And if it doesn't work out for them, or if they hit a wall of some sort where they're like, oh, that did not go the way, how do you help them through that? How do you guide them through that to overcome that minor barrier?
Well, first of all, it's perspective. The first thing you have to do is reframe your perspective, because no failure is really a failure. Failure is usually in our own heads. And the question always to ask is what can you learn from it? What gift is in it? And so one of the things I do is help people really see the gift and opportunities that different situations that they may be judging as bad create.
Wow, that's super powerful. Wow, that's really fantastic. I commend you for that work. I mean, that is not easy work to really stay with somebody, a client, in that space and help them overcome those fears and overcome those that mindset. I mean, mindset is it's such a difficult thing. You can't change someone's mindset, right? We know it. We can't, from an external perspective, change it, but you have to guide them so they can do it themselves.
Well, you give them the framework and the support so they can do it themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, to your point, no one can do it for you. And, mindset is such an ongoing task, right? We never completely master it. It's something that all of us are continually working on. And that positive and that seeing the gift in things, I can help people because I've learned to do that myself. Sometimes not as quickly as I would like to.
Right.
But, the bigger the thing is, that, the longer it takes to get to that perspective. But at the end of the day, you can get to that perspective. And if you really look hard enough, you can find gifts in things that you initially judge as bad. And that's why it's so important not to judge things as good and bad, and not to put that failure label on things, because it's all just part of life experience.
That's right. I love it. See, good answer. I love it. I have a similar mindset, and I've always tried to look at things in the positive way and just not get hung up on the negativity or the fear or the insecurities. I mean, we could go on and on and on, but and it's okay. I'm all over the place, but I have to go back to your writing and your books and your characters, and do these components, right? They're in the book, they're in the characters, whether it's this book or your previous books. And you can tell us a little bit about your other books that you've written as well, so you can give a little information to our viewers and our watchers.
Well, I have 3 other books that I contributed to. So they're anthologies, and I wrote a chapter in each of those. And they are they are nonfiction books. So they're kind of essays that I've written. So the first one was called Significant Women. And that was a little bit about my story, my background story. And then there was The X Factor, which I talk about boundaries, boundaries, not boxes, which I love. I love what I wrote in that one. That's such
another good hashtag.
That's a whole other, subject, as far as learning the difference between boundaries and boxes. And that's, that was fun. And then what's not behind me on the wall there is another book called Ennobling Business, where I wrote about corporate culture and how corporate culture needs to change to help keep women in corporate culture versus leaving, which they are doing still, even post-COVID, in record numbers. And that honestly is one of my passions, or one of my drivers for writing Discovering Power in the first place, because I wanted to give women a different perspective on how things could possibly be in the corporate world if they did discover their power, and if they did make choices that were empowering and ennobling and aligned with their values. And so that's part of the reason that I wrote Discovering Power in the first place, was to help give women maybe a vision of what could be in the corporate world, and encourage them to stay, because I feel like, even though I, am a little bit of a hypocrite there because I left corporate, but I mean, one of the reasons I left corporate was to help other women stay there. As crazy as that sounds, I mean, it sounds like an oxymoron, but we need women in the corporate world, and I totally get why they are leaving. I get it. But I feel like it's so important. And to go back to risk taking, men and women have different risk taking profiles, and the two together work together to make a really balanced and good approach to risk. Whereas if you take one or the other independently, women, particularly when they're stressed out, tend to play it safe, and men, when they're stressed out, tend to be reckless. And now, those are generalizations, but that's what that's what the research has shown us, that those are the tendencies. So if you get men and women to working together in the corporate space, there's a balance, and there's different perspectives, and there's maybe a way to develop better ways through. And so I feel like it's so important for women to have a voice, and for women to be participating in corporate life. And we're losing so much in corporate America and corporations all over the world by women leaving. And I think, again, I'd like, one of the reasons I left was to try to help women take the risks they need to take to make corporate life the way they want it to be.
Ooh, that's good. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and put your little information there, so people should connect with you on LinkedIn for this. If you need a coach, there you go, right here. We got an amazing one, help you with those, what would I say? Your corporate, not problems. They're not problems, but
it's when you're feeling frustrated and ready to leave corporate, and when you're in tough situations in corporations, and you want someone to help navigate it.
Exactly.
That's what I love to help people do.
Wow, that's good. That's again, we do need women in leadership, and so it's important that we can help them. You can help them, not we, but you. You and many other that do similar work, right? Really providing that empowerment and helping guide them through whatever they need to be happy, and then still feel that success that they want and that they deserve, and that
and be able to make the contribution they want to make. I mean, I know, I had one client in particular who was very frustrated in her job and felt like she was being passed over for promotions, and she wasn't seen, and she wasn't heard, and she knew she had so much more to offer the company than they were letting her do, right? She had so much more to offer. And once I coached her about it for a while, and actually she's one of my favorite clients, because she was in a very short period of time, she decided, okay, even though they're giving me big financial incentives to stay at this company, I'm going to let those go, and I'm going to go work for somebody that appreciates me and lets me contribute at the level which I'm capable of. And she did. She found another job and is now flourishing at a new company. So I love that.
Wonderful work. That's it. That's amazing. That's really important and appreciated. My goodness. So many of our not colleagues or fellow, LinkedIn friends and people that we know, it's a struggle. It's a struggle to stay where you're at if you're not feeling valued. And that just goes across the board in any kind of employment.
In any situation. Yeah. In any situation.
But especially, as a woman who wants to see women in leadership and have women in leadership, and we want to support them so that they can still, like you said, continue to contribute the way they want to contribute and find their success and find that they're being recognized and heard and appreciated in those positions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Juicy stuff.
Juicy stuff. Yeah, absolutely juicy stuff.
Let's see. I don't know Any other questions? I'm just looking. No. Okay. We talked about the book. I do want people to connect with you, so I put your information there.
Absolutely. Yeah. LinkedIn is the best way to connect with me. And if you want to check out a little bit more about, my book, my books, my work, my company is called Daring to Transcend. And the website is daringtotranscend.com.
And I put it in the chat to send out, and I know LinkedIn, you won't get this, but it talks your landing page, so they can get a copy of your book.
And get a copy of the book. Yep.
I put
Thanks,
that.
Krista.
Love it.
Krista's a big fan of Discovering Power. She read it.
Oh, so good. That's awesome. Oh, she's on YouTube. Okay, thanks. She got the link then. It's because it went through my YouTube. So
yeah, the landing page that you put up is the one that will get them to be able to purchase the book. Absolutely.
Right. That's how I got it. I went through your landing page and then you sign up. You can also sign up for more, because let's talk about your next upcoming book as we start to close it up here.
Yeah, no, you want to sign up so that you get all the juicy stuff on Pursuing Truth, which is coming out in September 28th, I think is the launch date. And then there's a third book that I am in the process of writing.
Ooh.
Some of the same characters. So I can't tell you anything about the third book yet, because that's still in progress.
Okay.
But Pursuing Truth gets really juicy because not only do we continue to look at Cheryl and Dave, her husband, look at their relationship, but Dave finds himself in a little bit of a pickle at work in Pursuing Truth. So that gets a little bit interesting.
Dave's Cheryl's husband?
Dave is Cheryl's husband. So Dave gets in a little pickle in Pursuing Truth. And Cheryl discovers some nefarious activity at her company that she then is investigating. So there's a lot of truth that people are trying to find out what is the truth and what's really going on in Pursuing Truth. And there's actually a third character that gets involved too. So there's 3 main characters in Pursuing Truth, not just the one like Discovering Power. So
wow, okay,
it is fun. I will tell you, Pursuing Truth is very fun.
Okay. I'm sold. I mean, I already bought it, so I'm sold. Like, I already bought it, but so everyone else has to get out there and get their copy.
Yeah, so you get Discovering Power, so you get introduced to Cheryl, and you learn about how she.
Let me put up the Amazon.
Tries to discover her power, and then the story continues in Pursuing Truth, and then book 3, which will be out sometime in 2024.
Okay, but Discovering Power is the first book in this series.
Yeah. Yep, right. It's called the Ascending Ladder series.
Okay, let me put up our Amazon here, and then we can just talk about it. Let's see. Okay, here. So I screenshotted the Amazon, and I guess I should remove some of these other graphics so you can see it. But there is the Kindle copy, which is the one I got for $4.99. You can get you have the hardcover, and I know you just put up your video about receiving your paperback, which was so sweet and so like that feeling. I want to talk about that feeling, but it's available on paperback. It's available on hardcover, and follow her as an author too on Amazon, folks. Yeah. I know you're on Amazon. Who isn't? So go over there, follow her as an author, pick up a copy of the book in whatever form you want, because it's available. And
there will be an audible version of it out probably in the fall. I'm not sure the dates of that yet, because that's still being recorded.
Oh yeah, I was just telling my friend, I'm like, I wish there was an audible copy, because that way you can like listen to it while you're doing other things. And it's just audibles are great. I mean, I love.
Yeah, they just take a lot. They just take a lot longer to get into production.
Yeah,
and you really can't start. You can't start the audible until the book is completely finished. So
exactly,
it takes a little bit longer, and I didn't want to wait until the audible was done before putting everything out. So
of course,
if you really want an audible, it's coming.
Yes, good. Krista loves audibles. I know she does too. So there's many of us that really do enjoy the audio version as well. So, but for now, I got my Kindle version, so that's good. Okay, so go back. I want to know real quick about that feeling when you opened your book. Like, what's that feel like?
It's just, I can't even describe the feeling, because it's just like, oh my gosh, here is something that I've written, and it's in a hard copy form. It looks like a book that I would buy from somebody else's, somebody else wrote, right? It's like a book that I could go to, Barnes and Noble to buy, which it will eventually be available at Barnes and Noble, hopefully soon too. But you could go to a store and buy a book that looks kind of like this. And so to hold that in your hand and think, wow, I did this, especially after, I was an English major in college, and, I've just been such an avid reader, and to see that, it's like, you just get chills. I don't know what to say, but you just get chills.
I can only imagine like that. I mean, I've never written a book, but just that feeling and watching that video and just like that.
Well, you see it when you do your videos and you put them out in the world. I mean, it's
a different feeling, Karen. That's for me, it's like, oh, I don't want to look at myself. But maybe if I wrote a book, it'd be different. And I'd be like, yeah, I wrote that book. But I get it. Like, yes, as a creator and the journey it takes and developing something and putting in so much attention and love and focus, and just you want to make it just right. I wouldn't say perfect, but just right. And you want to capture all those things that you really were trying to feel as they were coming out of you, pouring onto the paper. Question, do you handwrite or do you type it?
I type it.
You type it. Okay. Okay. And how long have you been writing? That was another question that popped into my head. But you said you worked in corporate. So
I worked in corporate. I did not really write when I was in corporate, except for obviously proposals and reports and all of that kind of fun stuff. Although I always felt like my writing skills, because obviously being an English major, I had pretty good writing skills to begin with. So I always felt my writing skills really contributed a lot to my success at work. So I think, that was part of what I did. I wrote manuals. I used to be a trainer, so I wrote workbooks and stuff for courses. I've done that. And I've always kept a journal. So that's another place that I've done a lot of writing. And on and off, I get in phases where I write poetry too.
Nice.
I haven't done that for a while, but I do write poetry occasionally. So my writing has sort of been, just a part of my life. Not in the form I'm doing it now, but in different forms, writing has always been part of my life.
Yeah. Well, I love writing. And if you look at my posts, they're like this long, and I'm like, I need to cut it back. I need to clean it. Like, I just write so much. I tend to overwrite. And another question, I'm full of them. What would you say to someone that wants to write their first book?
Start. Just start. Just start.
And that came.
Start.
That came because you talked about different forms that you had already been writing in. So naturally that was already part of.
That was part of it. But if somebody wants to write a book, the best thing to do is just start. Just write. Pick up a journal and just write in a journal. Just write ideas, write what you're thinking, write what you write about, and just get in the habit of writing every day. So, and if you want, there's a book called The Artist Way, and I cannot remember the author, sorry. But it's called The Artist's Way. And that's a great book if you want to just explore writing. It's kind of like a step-by-step, like each chapter has different prompts, and it helps you journal, and helps you really explore the whole concept of writing. So and actually it's good for any art form as well. I mean, I think it would work for, visual arts and other kinds of arts too, but she's a writer, but it's called The Artist's Way. So that's a good way to dive into it. And there are writing retreats. I've gone to a couple of those, one of which was completely amazing. And then there are writing coaches out there. There are coaches that can help you with your writing. And I will admit that I have utilized them too. I have an amazing writing coach and editor, because writing is not as solitary as a project as you think. I mean, yes, to actually do the writing, you have to sit down by yourself with the blank screen and write. But there's a lot of support you can get during the writing journey. And I've actually helped some of my clients are writers. So, I've helped with that as well. But it's but you just have to start. And I think that's what most people get hung up on. They're like, well, I don't know what to write about, or I don't know what to write, or I don't know how to write, or I don't know this. And they get caught up in the mechanics of it. And yes, eventually you have to deal with the mechanics of it. I'm not saying that you don't. I'm not discounting that, but you have to write first.
There you go. There you go. It's plain and simple. I like it. Fundamental.
Yeah, it is simple.
You got to start writing if you want to write a book. And I love what you say about writing every day, or at least a consistency piece. That's what I heard there.
Yes.
I mean, you have to have that goal. You have to put that into your time, account for that time, be intentional about it to really be able to create that ultimate product, that ultimate book that you really want.
Yeah. And I don't write my books every day, but I do journal almost every day.
Okay.
So there's some form of writing in my daily processes.
So that's excellent as well. So it doesn't have to be just writing as attention towards the book, but it could be writing in a journal. It could be any kind of writing, as long as you're practicing the art of writing and devoting. Sorry.
Yeah, devoting time to it. No, but sometimes writing something that like a journal that's kind of free form and you don't think is related to your book often will give you great ideas towards the book.
Yeah. Okay. I know I could keep going. I could have more questions, but we're going to wrap it up. I know we're going to wrap it up. It's 50 minutes in, 52. I appreciate everyone that's been in the chat. We've got to thank everyone that's been here. Mackenzie, thank you for your final edition with the Audible. Is so worth it. Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
A lot of people would appreciate that. Thanks to our amazing coach, business coach Krista, for hanging out and supporting our conversation.
Yay, Krista.
And yes, we love her. Dave, thank you for stopping by. I know that, we have so many wonderful friends and just people that we've met along on our journeys, right? On here on LinkedIn and in our groups that we have. Jessica, I know that you stopped by. Thank you again for throwing up the hashtag for us. Again, that hashtag, risky, not reckless. Okay.
All right. I'm owning it, Jessica. I'm owning it. And look at what just Krista wrote. Krista she touches my heart.
Aww. Binge worthy.
I love that. Yeah. Well, hopefully I'll have enough volume out there within the next year or so that there'll be plenty to binge on.
Yes. I'm excited. So part of what I was trying to get at was this is the first book. So go get it because 2 and 3 are coming. Absolutely. So that, you're at the right time in the right place. So you can start on the series with us, all of us together. It's very exciting. Thank you to Stacy that stopped by. If you're still here, Misty stopped by. Thank you again. I know I saw Aaron. I'm trying to give, credit to appreciation to the people. Oh, where did Aaron's message go? We just had so many wonderful people stop by. So I wanted to say thank you to them because Alive is not alive without them supporting the conversation and contributing in their own way to what we're saying. And let's see, your landing page, want to make sure we put that embrace the risk. I saw that embrace the risk.
Yeah,
very nice.
Well, the easiest way to remember the landing page is ascendingladders.com because it's the series name. So if you just go to ascendingladders.com, that will get you right to the landing page.
Right to the landing page. All right. And the book is available, like we said, on Amazon. There's a bit.ly link. It just makes it so much easier, but you can go on Amazon and search it for yourself or find Karen as an author, and you can also follow her. All right. And don't forget to connect with her on
Absolutely.
LinkedIn.
I would love to.
And if you need that risk-taking coach, there she is. Here she is.
Here I am.
Here she is. Okay, Karen, any final words? Anything else you want to share with us or leave us with?
No, thank you so much for having me today, DeeJae. I really enjoyed our conversation, and I appreciate everybody that popped in. This has been a great conversation. And as a writer, it is hard, as you brought up at the very beginning. It's sometimes hard to get things out there and get the support. And so it's just so heartwarming to have all the support that I have. And I really appreciate it. And I would love to hear feedback when you get the book and read it. I want to know what you think.
Oh, and leave reviews on Amazon. That's so important.
Absolutely. Reviews on Amazon, and
on Amazon.
you know, but let me know too.
For sure, of course.
Love it or hate it. I always like good feedback.
Yep. So Writers' Day is tomorrow, folks. We gotta appreciate our writers and acknowledge all the struggles in the writers' world that writers
Thanks,
go
Juana.
Oh, wonderful to see you. Okay, yes, thank you, Juana, as well, for supporting us. Here's to risk taking, right? We all got to find our own way to risk take, like starting a live stream, or writing a book.
You're either growing or you're shrinking, and if you're shrinking, that means you're not taking enough risks.
Correct. For sure. Okay, my dear, thank you again. Thank you, everyone. We're going to go ahead and close it out with our wonderful little outro. And if you have any questions for Karen, don't forget to connect with her on LinkedIn and send her a nice little message that you saw her on this live. That's all we want. All right. Bye, everybody. Thank you.